Pregnant and homeless, she knocked on a poor cowboy's door. What happened next will inspire you. The dust swirled in the heavy air of Castroville as Sarah stood before Jake's weathered front door, her heart racing in rhythm with the overwhelming despair constricting her chest. Just 22, and already a wave of uncertainty crashed over her, its salty brine soaking her dreams. Abandoned by the one person she thought would stand by her side, she faced a cruel reality. Pregnant and homeless, shamed by whispers that seemed to echo her failures. What would happen next? Would she be deemed an unworthy mother before her child even took a breath? The chipped paint beneath her fingertips shook with her anxiety, the stark contrast of her hope against the dilapidated ranch house haunting her. As she knocked, fear gripped her throat, and she hesitated. Everything she had yearned for, nursing school, a stable life, a loving family, slipped further away. Now, all she could think about was survival. She could feel the weight of every single person's judgment, the looming question, who would want someone like her? Panic surged. What if Jake turned her away? In this moment, her ambition and independence felt suffocatingly distant, leaving just the rawness of vulnerability exposed. When the door creaked open, revealing a rugged cowboy with weary eyes yet a kind heart, something shifted within her. She saw in him a flicker of genuine concern. Yet as she stepped into his world, another wave of doubt crashed over her. Could she be the woman he needed while becoming the mother her child deserved? The thought of being a disappointment racked her mind like a storm. She was bringing more than just a baby into this fragile dance. She was bringing the weight of her shattered dreams. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days turned into nights under that dilapidated roof, their conversations ran deep. With every late-night talk under the stars, Sarah found herself drawn to Jake's warmth. He shared stories of the ranch's glories and failures, and just like that, her imagination flickered back to the dreams she once held, yet the shadows of sorrow surrounded them. Residents of Castroville began to whisper, inflating her fears. Irresponsible mother, they said, casting doubts that tightened around her heart. Just as she thought they had forged a safe haven together, Jake's demeanor shifted. His own family's history began to surface, haunted by rumors that could ruin everything they had built. It felt as if the ground beneath her was crumbling. Would he see her as just another outsider? Would he believe the stories tainting her reputation? The hard work she admired in him was overshadowed by his struggle with his own insecurities. Would he be swayed by the judgments suffocating her spirit? Standing together one evening, the sprawling ranch beneath them marked a stark contrast to the raging storm of gossip swirling in town. Each whisper felt like a knife, threatening to cut through the fragile bond they were beginning to form, a bond that felt doomed before it even started. Looking into his conflicted eyes, Sarah knew they were on the edge of something monumental, a fight for acceptance that could either unite them or fracture their already trembling connection as they prepared to face the unyielding judgment of their community. With heavy tears threatening to spill, she stood firm, heart racing. This was a crossroads, a battle that could define the rest of her life. Days blurred into weeks, and with each passing moment, the uncertainty of life at the ranch loomed larger than Sarah's swelling belly. The nights were often filled with the sound of Jake's quiet footsteps on the creaky wooden floors as he would restlessly pace, wrestling with the weight of his family's expectations. Sarah could see the flickers of frustration etched on his face, but she steeled herself against the fear of being the source of his growing dissatisfaction. Every murmured critique of her character from the townsfolk seemed amplified within the walls of the ranch, reverberating in her mind. During daylight hours, she busied herself with small projects around the house. Every chore, every simple act of cleaning gave her a brief respite from the swirling chaos. Yet it also forced her to confront the reality of her circumstances. With nursing school slipping further from reach, a hollow ache of loss accompanied every sweep of a broom. Her plans felt like distant echoes, muffled under layers of regret. She secretly craved the discipline of her studies, the sense of purpose that once fueled her fierce independence. But now, each time she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, the reflection staring back resembled a shadow of her former self, layered with uncertainty and fear. Jake noticed the change in her too, instinctively tender but burdened. He stepped into a caretaker role, prepared meals with endearing clumsiness, and attempted to keep her spirits high, all while grappling with his own demons. Their exchanges were often a tightrope walk between friendship and the burgeoning tenderness neither dared to acknowledge, further clouding her already murky emotional landscape. One particularly stifling afternoon, Sarah found herself craving clarity among the swirling fancies of her mind. She ventured outside, taking a deep breath of dusty heat, determined to confront her shields of self-pity. She approached Jake, who was bent down, working on fixing the old pickup truck. The effort he put into such mundane tasks sparked a new wave of admiration within her. Sarah felt a surge of determination roofing over her insecurities. "Jake," she called out, mustering her courage, "I want to help you with more than just keeping the place tidy. I need to feel useful again." His brow lifted, and for a brief moment, hope flickered in his eyes. "Are you sure, Sarah? You don't have to push yourself. I want you to take it easy," he replied, concern lacing his tone. "Being idle is driving me mad," she confessed, her heart pounding. "I can't let the whispers of others define my worth. I need to reclaim a part of myself, to show that I am more than just the pregnant girl." With her heart in her throat, she stepped closer. It felt like a challenge, not just to him but also to herself. Little did she know, this declaration would ignite a fire of ambition within her, one that could potentially unite or shatter them both in the face of the community's scrutiny. So they began to work together. Their daily routines intertwined through laughter, teamwork, and mutual support. And slowly, the wall she had built around her heart began to crack. She studied the way he moved with purpose, something she had once lost sight of in her own life. And as he taught her the ropes of ranch work, she began to feel empowered again. Each nail driven into wood, each brush of paint on the house rekindled forgotten pieces of herself. The aspiring nurse, the ambitious learner, the resilient fighter. Yet even as the two of them drew closer, unfulfilled dreams and gnawing fears still loomed in shadows behind their newfound companionship. The town's judgment threatened like a storm cloud over their heads, and Sarah understood the storm was only beginning. What would happen when the truth of her struggles finally collided with the opinions of the townsfolk? With the baby growing inside her, each heartbeat became more than a reminder of the life she would soon bring into the world. It became a ticking clock, marking the moments until she would finally have to confront those who doubted her. Paradoxically, as hope began to blossom within her, so too did the chilling reminder that every step forward could bring them both a step closer to conflict or acceptance. Would the journey ahead fortify their bond, or tear them apart in the face of communal scrutiny? Sarah took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next, and with growing resolve, realized she had a choice: be a victim or a warrior. But she had no idea just how fiercely the town would fight against her emergence, or how it would test the very foundation of everything she had come to believe about herself. The moment of reckoning was near, and she was about to face a confrontation that would shake the very core of her identity. Would she rise from the ashes of judgment, or would she succumb to the weight of others' expectations? The sun rose higher on the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the barn floor where Sarah and Jake continued their work. As days turned to one another, the rhythmic sound of hammers and conversation began to feel like a second heartbeat, a rhythm of life that was beginning to stitch together the frayed fabric of her existence. The physical labor fueled her mind, awakening the clarity she had thought lost in the haze of hesitation and doubt. Yet, while she flourished in her newfound role, navigating chores deftly and collaborating with Jake, an insidious unease still clawed at her. The question of her return to nursing school loomed larger each day, a specter she could not ignore. Between tasks, she found moments to reflect on her future, her old textbooks still sitting in a dusty corner of the house. They were no longer just reminders of a dream, but talismans of the possibilities that lay ahead if she dared to reclaim her ambition. One evening, Sarah resolved to confront her feelings head-on. The overhead lights flickered as she and Jake prepared the evening meal, the warm glow wrapping them in an intimate cocoon. She placed the pan on the stove, her mind racing. She needed to share her thoughts, to map out her vision for herself, beyond just the immediate responsibilities of ranch life. "Jake," she began, her voice steady despite the flutter in her stomach. "We need to talk about my plans. I can't shake the feeling that there's more I can contribute." He looked up, the concern on his face palpable. "I'm glad you feel that way, Sarah, but what do you mean specifically?" The moment had arrived, and with it the haunting whispers of doubt surfaced, a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through her veins. She wanted to articulate the dreams that hadn't quite extinguished, but she also felt the weight of their circumstances pressing heavily upon them. "I've been thinking about nursing school. I want to apply, to at least start preparing." The words felt raw and exposed. "This baby is going to need more than just a steady home. I want to be able to provide, to show them that they can set their sights high." Jake's brow furrowed as he processed her statement. "But what about the doubts of others? The town? They might not accept it. They don't see someone like you succeeding in that world." His words stung, a reminder of the critique that echoed through the corners of her mind, but she could not let fear dictate her life. "It's not about them, Jake. It's about what I can become." She paused, realizing how entwined her courage was with their relationship. "I need to show them what I'm capable of, even if that means standing against their judgment." They stood in silence, the weight of her resolve sinking in. She felt a simmering strength building inside her, an iron-willed determination coaxing her to stride confidently into her future. It was a revelation steeped in vulnerability. She would not shy away from the challenge, but embrace it, utilizing her journey as a source of inspiration for her child. The tension in the room morphed as Jake took a deep breath, weighing his own internal struggle against accepting her aspiration. "If this is what you want, I'll be here to support you, Sarah," he finally said, his voice steady. "But know that the road ahead won't be easy." The unspoken bond between them solidified in that moment, signaling a teamwork that could withstand external pressures. Yet still, uncertainty loomed like a gathering storm on the horizon. As hope intermingled with dread, Sarah couldn't escape the single looming question: which voices would prove louder, her own or the town's? That evening, lying in bed, her thoughts ambled between dreams of nurses' scrubs and visions of rejection. With each passing minute, her heart quickened. Tomorrow would come with challenges, both tangible and emotional, and she would need to prepare her mind and spirit for the battle ahead. A new beginning awaited her, but it wouldn't be without its perilous trials. How well could she manage the weight of ambition alongside the expectations of the townsfolk? And would she finally muster the courage to confront her doubts head-on in front of those who judged her? As sleep washed over her, Sarah faced the truth. The journey had just begun, and she would soon be tested in ways she had never anticipated. The dawn broke with a muted light filtering through the curtains, settling into Sarah's consciousness as a reminder of the responsibilities awaiting her. She lay still for a moment, allowing the calm to wash over her before feeling the weight of the day settle on her shoulders. Thoughts of her conversation with Jake flickered in and out of focus, filling her with resolve despite the uncertainty swirling around her. As she arose, stretching her limbs in anticipation of another day filled with work at the ranch, a palpable energy thrummed beneath her skin. Today, she would face the town, a small step toward claiming her destiny. The first place to confront was the local community college, where the nursing program awaited her inquiry. It felt like she was gearing up for battle, a battle not just against the skepticism of those around her, but also against the self-doubt that had clung to her for years. After finishing her chores, she found herself standing before the familiar white building that housed the college. Her heart raced, each beat echoing the clamor of her thoughts. What if they dismissed her? What if she couldn't succeed? Yet the image of her child, a life not yet born but already profoundly part of her, propelled her forward. She stepped inside, greeted by the sterile, bright halls adorned with charts and smiling faces of students bustling to and fro. An administrator at the front desk noticed her hesitation. "Can I help you?" Their voice was warm, disarming. "I want to learn about the nursing program." The admission popped out, firm and resolute despite the tremor beneath it. "Of course. Have a seat, and I'll get some information for you," the administrator replied, indicating a row of chairs nearby. Sarah took a seat, fighting the urge to flee, allowing herself to feel for just a moment the stir of timid excitement mixed with fear. As she read the pamphlet detailing courses, timelines, and prerequisites, a sense of clarity emerged from the fog of uncertainty. Each page she flipped brought a revelation. This was not merely a pathway to a career, but a commitment to herself, to her child, and to carving out an identity of purpose. The doubts of her past began to feel paler and weaker, shadows afraid of the light she was now tapping into. When the counselor returned, Sarah found her voice. "What's the process like? I've been out of school for a while, and I'm expecting a baby soon," she admitted, the weight of her situation forging a tenuous bond with the path ahead. The counselor smiled warmly. "You're not alone. Many students juggle family and education. We can help you create a flexible schedule. It's going to take hard work, but you'll find support here." As they discussed more about her options, Sarah began to see the outlines of a bridge she could cross. A bridge toward a life that fulfilled her ambition. The counselor's words ignited something ignoble within her. She was more than just a young woman from a small town. She was a burgeoning healer, and that was worth fighting for. Yet as she stepped back outside into the world, a chilling breeze reminded her of the judgment that loomed. Would the people of the town rally behind her, or would they succumb to their own doubts and fears? Would she face contempt for her aspirations? Or would they respect her courage to redefine her future? As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue to the sky, she climbed into her truck with a determined heart, tasked with the next logical step, talking to Jake about her progress and what it might mean for both of them. It was time to blend her dreams with their reality. The thought stirred a mixture of excitement and anxiety within her. Would Jake still be supportive upon hearing about her new resolve? Would he grasp the full significance of her journey, or would he view it as yet another burden? The path ahead felt fraught with emotional turmoil, but she was poised to challenge the discomfort. She knew the moment was fast approaching. The time would come when they would need to reaffirm their shared commitment to each other, as her dreams collided with their responsibilities. What would the conversation hold? Would love triumph over doubt, or would apprehension hold the reins of their relationship? With each mile down the road, Sarah felt the weight of her choices usher her onward into a future unwritten, where determination and vulnerability would intertwine in unexpected ways. It was a threshold she could not ignore. As Sarah navigated the familiar dirt road back to the ranch, she found herself lost in thought, the truck bumping rhythmically under the weight of her anticipation. Each movement felt charged, each turn in the road a deliberate step toward an uncertain future. She wondered how she would voice her ambitions to Jake, her partner, her confidant, and yet a potential source of tension. The ranch came into view, its sun-bleached barns and sprawling fields picturesque yet laden with responsibility. She parked and stepped out, inhaling the earthy scent of hay and livestock mixed with the faint burn of diesel. But today, that familiar scent brought with it an unyielding resolve. Her conversation at the college had ignited a flame within her, and she bore the weight of that spark as she walked inside. Jake was mending a fence in the pasture, the sunlight glinting off the tools scattered by his feet. He straightened up as she approached, wiping the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. There was a brief moment where his gaze fell upon her inquisitive face, a moment where the ease of their companionship clashed with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "Hey, how did it go?" he asked, his tone light yet edged with curiosity. Sarah took a breath. "I got some information about the nursing program." The words escaped before she could reconsider, pulling her into the gravity of her choice. "Really?" A flicker of surprise crossed his features before he masked it with an encouraging smile. "That's great. What's the plan?" She paused, uncertainty creeping back in, but she pushed through. "I want to enroll. I have to think about my future, about our future." The last statement came out almost as a plea. She sought his understanding, an assurance that her ambitions wouldn't be seen as a threat. Jake squatted back down, fiddling with the wire. "You know I'm all for you doing what you want," he replied, though there was an undercurrent in his voice that made her heart tighten. "But school's hard. It takes time." "I know that," she replied, struggle etching her features. "I'm asking you to help me balance it all. I want to give our child a better life, a healthy life, everything we didn't have." The intensity in her voice surprised even her, but beneath the ferocity lay the fragility of her fears. He looked up, meeting her gaze, a storm of emotions playing across his face. "It's a lot to manage. You being in school and me working here, can we really take that on right now?" His words struck her like an unexpected blow, shades of doubt swirling back into her mind. She envisioned the battle of childcare, study hours intertwined with ranch chores, and the specter of disappointment loomed over her ambitions. "What do you mean, can we? This is our future. It's not too much." The edge of desperation sharpened her resolve. She couldn't allow herself to concede failure before she even began. He stood now, measuring her with a mix of concern and admiration. "I didn't mean to undermine your dreams. He searched for the right words. "I just don't want you to burn out. You've got everything setting up to be a tough go." The conversation hung heavy in the air, a palpable mix of love and tension. Sarah wrestled with the emotion bubbling within her, a duality of hope and trepidation. "I need this, Jake," she said, softening her tone but firm in her intent. "For us, for our child." Silence enveloped them, thick and charged with unspoken thoughts. The vulnerability of her request settled deep, and she could see realization flickering in his eyes, an understanding of the stakes involved. "Okay," he finally said, his voice steadying. "We can figure this out, together." Relief unfurled within her, easing the tightness coiling in her chest. As they stood together surrounded by the fading daylight, Sarah sensed a shift, a new layer of resilience being forged between them. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky vibrant hues of orange and purple, she knew their path was only beginning. Conversations about time management would soon become discussions of their values, what it meant to strive together amid hardships. A thorn of doubt pricked at her heart. Could she truly juggle dreams, aspirations, and the weight of their relationship without losing herself along the way? The question echoed as they turned towards the barn, a chilling reminder that love, commitment, and ambition would soon be tested in ways they had yet to explore. As they entered the barn, the familiar sense of hay and leather enveloped Sarah, providing a momentary comfort before the weight of her decision returned. The day had faded into dusk, casting long shadows that mirrored the uncertainty gnawing at her insides. Each step toward their home felt heavy, burdened by the challenges that lay ahead. Jake moved with purpose around the barn, checking on the horses and ensuring they had enough feed. Sarah sat on a bale of hay, her knees drawn to her chest, mind spinning with the tasks she must juggle, applying for nursing school, managing the ranch, and preparing for the new arrival that would change everything. There was a time not long ago when she felt an overwhelming certainty about her choices. Now they felt like a maze without a clear exit. "Do you think we can handle it?" she called out, breaking the silence. The ordinary act of checking on horses had become a reminder of her gnawing doubts. Jake turned, pausing for a moment as if weighing her words. "I think we will, but it won't be easy," he said thoughtfully. "We need a plan." A plan. The word hung in the air, igniting a flicker of determination within her. She had always been the one to outline the steps she would take, but passion sometimes drowned in the relentless tide of everyday reality. What would that look like? Sarah leaned forward, her curiosity mingled with newfound resolve. "I want to make sure I can enroll and find time for everything else." "Okay," he said, pacing thoughtfully. "Let's break this down. School starts in a few months, right? We should map out the days you would have classes and see how we can shift chores around. Maybe we can find a babysitter for a few hours." The way he spoke inspired a cascade of ideas. He was right. They could work together, leveraging their strengths. A plan was forming, and her heart swelled with hope. "My sister could help watch the baby when it arrives, and maybe the local community group has some resources," she suggested, her excitement building as she brainstormed. Jake nodded, adding, "We could trade some work with other ranchers for occasional help. I know a few who'd be open to it." There was a rhythm to their conversation now, a collaborative spirit revitalizing her determination. She realized that with every suggestion they exchanged, her fear of failure was met with proactive solutions, each obstacle transformed into a stepping stone. But beneath this budding resolve lurked a deeper concern. How fast could this ambition turn into debt? Each course she envisioned required resources, and nursing was no small commitment. Would she be seen as someone overly ambitious? Someone who spread herself too thin? "Hey," Jake's voice pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. "You okay?" His brow furrowed with concern, and she recognized the line between support and skepticism. "Yeah, She hesitated, unsure if the fear of potential failure was appropriate to vocalize when hope felt so palpable. "I don't want you to think I'm chasing a dream that could leave us worse off." Jake stepped closer, his expression softening. "You're not just chasing a dream, you're doing it for us. I believe in you. It's okay to be scared. It's a big change. But sometimes, embracing fear is part of the journey." The sincerity in his words resonated within her. Sarah's fingers grazed the rough texture of the hay bale, grounding her amidst the swirling emotions. She struggled with the notion of her potential legacy, not just being the rancher's wife or a mother, but a nurse, someone who could make a difference in others' lives. As she gathered courage to expand her vision, she found herself driven by purpose, a stark contrast to her earlier hesitance. The road ahead was unclear, but the moment did not need to feel like a battle. Instead, it could be an exploration of their individuality within the partnership they had forged. Later that night, as Sarah lay in bed, a familiar restlessness washed over her. She turned and faced Jake, who was already drifting off to sleep. Would he be able to handle the weight of her ambitions as they clawed through this new terrain together? Would her pursuit of nursing shift the dynamics of their relationship? The vulnerability in the air felt charged with potential. With each unanswered question, she recognized that growth didn't always come in waves, but rather as a series of choices and revelations. What personal insights awaited her on this unexpected path? Tomorrow she would take the first step, signing up for classes, initiating a dialogue with the local community for support. But she also knew that with the dawn would come new challenges. Would her ambitions threaten the very fabric of their relationship, or could it weave them closer together? The realization hung heavily in her heart as she closed her eyes, determination battling against her doubts. A single question lingered in her mind. When would the time come for her to assert not just her dreams, but her identity amidst love and responsibility? The morning sun peeked through the barn slats, illuminating dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Sarah felt the warmth on her face, a gentle push against the heavy weight of her resolve. A sense of urgency rose within her. Today was not just another day. It was the day she would begin reclaiming her identity. As she washed her face and tied her hair back, Sarah's determination sharpened. The reflections of her ambitions swirled in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Nursing school, the ranch, and motherhood, these weren't separate entities. They intertwined, each supporting and pushing her to grow beyond what she currently was. She made her way to the kitchen, the aroma of coffee filling the air as she found Jake sipping quietly at the table. "You ready for today?" he asked, looking up with a hint of encouragement in his eyes. "Yeah," she replied, her voice stronger than it had felt last night. "I plan to call the college and see about the application process first thing." Jake grinned, but the way his gaze lingered on her revealed a flicker of concern. "What about the ranch? You'll need to start working up a schedule soon." "Right," she acknowledged. The tension in her chest tightened briefly before releasing. It was time for clarity. "How about we set a specific time this evening to go over everything?" "Absolutely, that sounds good." His easy affirmation warmed her. But beneath that warmth, Sarah felt a shadow of doubt creeping in. She spent the morning organizing the barn and caring for the horses, every chore a physical reminder of her prior commitments. With each task, her focus intensified. Practicality fused with passion as she considered what it would mean to balance school and ranch things. Hours turned into clear decisions as she mentally lined up potential schedules, and she began to see paths opening before her. The phone call to the college was a revelation. The administrator spoke with clarity about the prerequisites and application process, answering her questions with patient precision. Each detail she noted down on paper felt like a step taken toward a vision she could almost touch. The excitement surged, battling against the fear whispering that perhaps it was all too much. Later in the afternoon, as she engaged in a discussion with a fellow rancher about arranging trades for help, a realization hit her. She wasn't just preparing to enter a new world, she was evolving into a figure who could redefine her role within her marriage and as a future parent. But that thought of redefinition brought back her earlier fears. Was she selfish for wanting so much? Could ambition and family coexist? At dinner, Jake's casual remarks about their plans sparked another round of contemplation. He spoke of future evenings where they could study together, where she wouldn't just be the lady of the ranch, but a future professional, someone to be proud of. Well, if we can work this out, maybe it makes sense for you to be involved in community health initiatives as well, he added, and at that moment, Sarah realized they could indeed face this together. But what if I'm not good enough? She said suddenly, the thought escaping her lips before she could temper it. Jake's fork clattered to his plate, and he turned to meet her gaze. You're going to be amazing at it, Sarah. You've got the heart for it. Trust in your ability. His reassurance was deep and personal, but it also forced her to confront her insecurities head-on. The journey ahead was steeped in uncertainty, yet the shadows from doubt were beginning to retreat ever so slightly. As the evening wound down and plans formed like promises in the air, a new unease settled in. The stakes were higher than she had realized. What if she didn't succeed? Would she regret stretching herself too thin? In bed that night, as the quiet enveloped her, sleep felt elusive. With her heart racing, she pondered the importance of her choices, how each decision, small or large, impinged upon her relationship with Jake, and more critically, her sense of self. Then an idea struck her with intensity. Perhaps the path wasn't about achieving her dreams alone, but navigating toward them while ensuring her relationship with Jake heightened rather than diminished. Palms damp and mind whirling, she set a plan in her heart. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but she intended to face them, not as a solo effort, but as a partnership, filled with open discussions and shared burdens. But as the night deepened, so did her realization that balancing ambition and love would be a dance of tension rather than a linear progression. Could she find harmony amidst conflicting desires? Perhaps the hardest choice awaited her, in not just pursuing her nursing ambitions, but daring to fully own who she was becoming alongside Jake. Tomorrow was a step toward the answers she sought, and the question didn't rest lightly on her heart. Would she be brave enough to explore both the person she wished to be and the depths of their relationship? The following morning, Sarah awoke to the faint sounds of clucking chickens and the rustle of the autumn wind. The sun shining through the barn slats signaled a fresh start. She stretched her limbs and breathed deeply, allowing warm optimism to wrap around her like a soft blanket. But lingering doubts floated just below the surface, challenging the morning's positivity. She considered how solid her resolve felt in that moment compared to the tempestuous uncertainty she had wrestled with the night before. Would today be a day of promise or another layer revealing her fears? As she prepared breakfast, she recalled the insights gained from her conversations with Jake. Togetherness had emerged as more than a mere backdrop to her plan. It was an essential element, a bedrock of sorts. But as the eggs cracked and sizzled in the skillet, a nagging question kept proliferating. What if their support for one another unraveled when pursuing their ambitions collided? After breakfast, Sarah returned to her usual responsibilities on the ranch, yet today felt different. The air crackled with an electric energy, igniting her curiosity and fueling her resolve. The tasks became opportunities, each one an invitation to grow. She spent extra time grooming the horses, absorbing their rhythmic movements, and finding solace in their intuitive nature. As she brushed their coats, she attempted to identify parallels to her own journey. Horses could be both wild and obedient. They required trust to fully flourish. Perhaps her relationship with Jake mirrored this dynamic. Two pioneers ready to tackle the storm ahead, both needing to trust each other against the backdrop of their shared goals. That day, after finishing the barn chores, Sarah reached for the notebook she'd begun using to outline her daily responsibilities and goals. Its pages were now filled with more than just farm tasks. They encapsulated her aspirations. Next to the carefully organized columns of chores were notes on nursing prerequisites and even ideas for potential community initiatives. For the first time, she allowed herself to blossom a little further. She scribbled goals not only for school, but for her and Jake's future as a family. After lunch, while pondering her burgeoning plans, an unexpected problem emerged. A neighboring rancher called, requesting help with an emergency. Sarah felt a pang. I should help, she thought, instinctively drawn to pitch in as she had so many times before. But would sacrificing her time now hinder her own progress? The question wasn't only about physical assistance, but about the emotional ramifications as well. Was she continuously placing everyone else's responsibilities above her own dreams? Each siloed commitment loomed larger, pressuring her sense of identity. "Hey, Jake," she called, walking into their small living room where he was flipping through a magazine. "What do you think? Should I help Billy out with his sheep?" Jake looked up, noting her conflicted expression. "I know how you feel about stepping up for others, but you can't lose yourself in that. What do you want?" The clarity of his question resonated, cutting through a cloud of uncertainty. For a moment she paced the length of the room, weighing her options. Helping Billy would be noble but draining, an investment that could set her back. She didn't merely want to be the helper, she wanted to stand as an individual ready to chart her path forward. "I want to help," she responded finally, "but I don't want to lose time for my study or my own goals. If I can do this later, I might—" A realization struck. It wasn't just about logistics. It was about positioning herself as an equal partner at the ranch while pursuing personal ambitions. "So maybe I can schedule help later," she noted, scribbling it down. "I can offer assistance once my studies kick off. This way, I'm committed to my goals while still supporting my friends." "Exactly," Jake affirmed, a proud light in his eyes. The mutual respect in that moment sparked newfound confidence in her heart. It wasn't just about sacrifice, it was about smart choices that kept both her passions and commitments alive. With that clarity flooding her senses, Sarah felt empowered. The rest of the day unfolded with thrilling possibilities as she reached out to other potential nursing students on social media, envisioning friendships woven from shared hardships and success. Hours passed, and as evening approached, she and Jake settled down to map out their schedules. They began drawing lines between farming duties, family time, and the looming future of her nursing aspirations. Sarah's heart raced in excitement and anticipation. Their collaboration felt like a foundation they could build upon. Yet, uncertainty followed her like a shadow, a ticking clock reminding her they were pushing against a limited time frame. Then, with the revelation that tomorrow also demanded courage and conviction, an open call to explore the depth of her ambitions, she recognized the stakes rising once again. The very nature of their relationship rested on a delicate balance of partnership and individual growth, and the work ahead was pivotal. Could she navigate through the dual demands of love and aspiration? Tomorrow would challenge her yet again, and a sliver of fear crept back in. Would her efforts dissolve into chaos, or would they yield unexpected connections, both personally and professionally? Whatever the case, her resolve today would resonate through their future endeavors. There was still so much she didn't know about her potential, but one thing was clear: the coming days would demand her very best. The sun rose again, casting long shadows over the ranch, a reminder of both time's passage and the weight of decisions yet to come. As Sarah brewed coffee, she felt the brewing tension in her chest. Today required another level of focus. This was more than just a day filled with routine farm tasks. It was a pivotal moment where ambition and practicality would wage war within her. After breakfast, she headed out to the fields, the cool morning air invigorating her senses. Thoughts buzzed in her head like persistent bees, each one reminding her of the schedule she designed with Jake. It was time to implement it. But as she moved through chores, feeding the cattle, fixing fences, she couldn't shake the anxiety creeping in. She checked her phone. No new messages from the nursing group. A twinge of disappointment pulled at her. Had they moved on without her? The thought tethered her to a nagging fear that she may be running out of time, out of chances. Shrugging it off, she focused on her work, reminding herself of the progress she had made. Working with the horses, she found an unexpected reservoir of strength. They mirrored her emotions, wild and untamed at first, but once she guided them, they fell into rhythm. It was in this small victory over the horses that she found a reflection of herself. If she could control the untamed spirit of a horse, perhaps she could master her own turbulent ambitions. Harnessing that control became her mantra. Returning to the barn, she spotted the message notification. With a quick heartbeat, she read the response from the nursing group. "Meeting at the community center 6 p.m. Let's see who's interested." A thrill rushed through her, dissolving shadows of doubt as excitement replaced anxiety. She liked the idea of stepping into a new space, meeting others like her, but a whisper of apprehension stirred. Was she ready to showcase her evolving identity? Determined, Sarah grabbed her notebook again. She flipped through the pages, scanning her goals. Maybe attending this meeting could be the turning point in her journey, an opportunity to network, to share, and potentially to grow into the person she aspired to be. But along with that opportunity came the fear of judgment, the nagging thought that she might falter in front of those who seemed experienced. Jake stepped into the barn as she scribbled down her fears and hopes. "Everything okay?" he asked, concern lining his brow. "Just overthinking it," she admitted, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "I have that nursing meeting tonight, and I'm feeling, I don't know, exposed?" The moment hung in the air, raw with vulnerability. Jake's eyes softened. "You're not alone, Sarah. You've come so far. Just remember, everyone is there to learn, just like you. Embrace that uncertainty." His words of encouragement sparked a flame of determination within her. With a newfound resolve, she finished her chores more efficiently, her focus sharpening. Every task completed was a step closer to her dreams, an enactment of the balance she sought between responsibilities and aspirations. The day blurred into a series of calculated efforts, and by the time evening approached, she was fully prepared, not just in the practical sense, but mentally as well. She would walk into that meeting anchored in her purpose and intentions. As darkness enveloped the ranch, she dressed carefully, opting for a simple yet confident outfit. Before she headed out, she and Jake sat together at the kitchen table, the familiar warmth of their partnership fortified by affirmations of mutual support. "I won't lose who I am in this," she asserted, locking eyes with him. "Even if I discover something new about myself tonight." He nodded, a reassuring smile dancing on his lips. "You've got this." Driving to the community center, the weight of her shifting identity became palpable. With every turn of the wheel, she reminded herself of the ambition pulsing through her veins. This was a step, not just toward nursing, but toward owning her narrative, where insecurity could coalesce into strength. As she parked, the building loomed larger than life. The gathering would mark not just an exploration of her career aspirations, but a confrontation with her own self-doubt. Would she find allies among those she met? Or would she be confronted with challenges that would force her to reflect more deeply on who she was as a future nurse, partner, and individual? As she stepped out of the car, anticipation danced in her chest, mingled perilously with a hint of fear. With each step towards the center, Sarah realized she was not merely walking into a meeting. She was stepping into a veritable battleground for her personal growth. The moment of truth was upon her, and each breath poised her on the edge of revelation. Would she emerge victorious, or would her vulnerabilities overpower her? The evening promised answers much deeper than she anticipated. The community center was bustling with energy when Sarah pushed through the doors. The room was filled with chatter, individuals buzzing with excitement as they gathered around tables strewn with pamphlets and flyers. A banner reading, "Welcome to Future Nurses Night," hung across the far wall, beckoning her forward. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she stepped inside, a powerful blend of anxiety and anticipation coursing through her. She could sense the weight of her aspirations pressing against her, encasing her in a fragile cocoon of hope interspersed with self-doubt. Would she be seen as the competent future nurse she aspired to be? Or would she remain just the pregnant girl from Castroville to everyone around her? Taking a deep breath, she smiled at the welcoming faces around her, her earlier insecurities beginning to wane. Sarah navigated through the crowd and joined a cluster of women discussing class schedules, prerequisites, and personal experiences. Each story told served as a bridge connecting her to these aspiring nurses. They were all forging pathways toward their dreams. She realized she wasn't alone in this journey. With each shared tale of struggle and triumph, Sarah felt her confidence swell. These women were passionate, ambitious, and driven, even in the face of challenges. The fear that had gripped her moments before started to dissolve, replaced by the realization that her journey was not just about her. It was about all of them rallying together, encouraging one another, understanding the tightrope walk of ambition and responsibility. When the meeting facilitator called for everyone's attention, Sarah felt a thrilling tension in the air. The facilitator was a fierce, accomplished woman who spoke passionately about overcoming obstacles to achieve professional goals. Her story echoed in Sarah's heart, overcoming adversity and embracing a pathway that was paved with hard work, resilience, and relentless ambition. "Remember," the facilitator said, locking eyes with the group, "every single one of you has what it takes to pursue your dreams. Don't let anyone, even yourself, tell you otherwise." The conviction in her voice sent ripples of energy coursing through the room, reigniting Sarah's sense of purpose. As the meeting came to a close, participants were invited to mingle and exchange contact information. Sarah approached a group, introducing herself, and before long, she found herself immersed in conversations about study groups and potential collaborations. Seizing the opportunity, she expressed her own desires, outlining how much she yearned to pursue nursing amid her circumstances. The responses she received were nothing short of uplifting. Each conversation emboldened her, a collaborative warmth forming bonds that she hadn't expected to happen so easily. She felt illuminated among the aspiring nurses, not just for what they were striving for, but for the humanity shared through vulnerability. By the time she headed back to the truck, a new sense of self enveloped her. Sarah felt lighter, unburdened by the weight of her previous fears. The act of putting herself out there validated her place among those pursuing hard-earned dreams. She was not merely a pregnant girl anymore. She was a determined woman claiming her identity. Later that night, she discussed the meeting with Jake over dinner, her enthusiasm flickering brightly. "I can't believe how supportive everyone was. It felt good being among others who share my ambitions," she revealed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Jake listened intently, his expression one of pride. "You went in there and did it. I knew you had it in you," he said, admiration evident in his tone. In that moment, Sarah felt a shift within her, a deeper trust in her abilities and the blossoming alignment of personal aspirations with their shared responsibilities. She knew the path ahead was still filled with uncertainties, yet they did not weigh her down as they had before. Rather, they fueled her desire to rise to the challenge. Over the next few weeks, she developed a structured schedule that fused responsibilities at the ranch with studying, meeting with fellow nursing students weekly, and organizing childcare with Jake's sister. There would be no perfect balance, she realized, but there would be moments of synchronizing life and dreams, much like dancing with a partner. The community of aspiring nurses became a safe haven, a supportive network where Sarah was able to voice her struggles and triumphs. Bonds formed and flourished, transforming a solitary pursuit into a collective journey. She witnessed their struggles mirrored in her own, and together they engaged in conversations that inspired confidence, a true sisterhood. As the weeks rolled into months, each passing day marked tangible progress. Nursing school applications submitted, connections deepening, personal goals being pursued. Sarah found herself engaging more deeply with the ranch and balancing her evolving identity with her responsibilities. The whispers from the townsfolk faded, becoming just a hum in the background as she confidently carved out her space, no longer defined solely by their judgments. One morning, as Sarah prepared for her first day of classes, she glanced at her reflection in the mirror. Gone was the apprehensive pregnant girl. In her place stood a determined woman ready to break ground on her dreams. She had harnessed courage, commitment, and conflict into a catalyst for change, both for her and her budding family. Jake returned home just as she was about to step out. He locked eyes with her, the warmth of encouragement radiating between them. "You ready?" he asked, grinning. "More than ready," she replied, her voice strong and unwavering. In that moment, Sarah recognized her profound transformation. She had emerged from the ashes of her doubts, evolving her identity from the fears that once threatened to engulf her into an empowered individual ready to forge her path. As she stepped out into the crisp morning air, Sarah knew unequivocally she had done more than pursue a nursing career. She had conquered the landscape of her life, growing into her role as a mother, partner, and aspiring nurse. It was a harmonious equilibrium she never thought possible, and she proudly embraced every facet of the future ahead. Now more than ever, the dream she cherished felt within her grasp. The weight of her journey was not merely a burden, it was a badge of honor, one that she wore with dignity as she stepped boldly into her new chapter of life. The present beckoned, rich with promise, and it was time for Sarah to claim it fully. Do not miss this transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these powerful narratives. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible transformation. We want to hear from you. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let's spread this message of courage and ambition. This is the moment to show your unwavering support.